Greetings from the archives of the Central Armed Forces Museum here in Moscow, Russia, otherwise known as the Dungeon. Access to this is extremely rare. As far as we know, we're the only Western film crew to ever be down here. Now, they have a lot of small arms down here and a lot of cool small arms, and they got some stuff that you'll see in the United States, but they have a few pieces that frankly you'll probably see no other place in the world. Our plan is to highlight some of these rare small arms for your enjoyment. Stay tuned. Okay, now I'm going to take you through two of the rarest assault rifles in the world, pretty much never seen in the Western world. You have to come here to Russia to see these guns. I have a pre-production prototype of the AN-94 and a pre-production prototype from way back in the day, 1970 to be exact, of the AEK-971. I'm going to talk you through the basic concepts and also pop the top covers off and let you look inside to get an idea of how these two guns work. First off, the AN-94 is kind of famous for its hyper burst technology, so to speak, and it mechanically sets up the ability to fire two shots extremely fast. There's an internal mechanism essentially that the barrel's attached to, more or less a trunnion or a recoil block inside the gun. Almost a gun inside a gun, which is the way Reed Knight described this gun to me years ago when I asked him about it. When the first shot is fired, as the gun starts to recoil, the bolt cycles extremely fast and fires a second shot right before the bolt carrier group hits the rear of the receiver. Therefore, when you fire the gun at 1,800 rounds a minute, you essentially only feel the recoil forces of one shot. Theory is downrange, you can get a very tight dispersion. Now on the range, I was able to shoot silhouettes out to 100 yards. Both shots hit on target, no problem, but I was not able to actually measure the dispersion. How it does that is very unique. You can see this pulley right here and this cable. As the bolt carrier starts coming to the rear, the cable is actually attached underneath to a rammer, so to speak. And it is pulling, or pushing rather, a round into an intermediate feed position. And that intermediate feed position sets a round up to go into the chamber as it's ejecting the empty cartridge. Now the bolt carrier cycles very fast, pushes the next round in and fires it all before the recoiling mass of the barrel and the trunnion hits the rear of the receiver, thus transmitting the recoil forces to the shoulder of the fire. Very complex, and it's amazing that the Russians really went from the AK series to this with limited adoption of this platform. They found out it was very expensive, they didn't have the resources to field it, and also much, much more complex. I'll tell you this, we were on the range firing one. Clearly it was a gun that was well used. It had a malfunction, a double feed, so to speak. It left an empty case in the chamber, and it was trying to feed another round up via that rammer, and it caused a horrendous double feed that frankly took a couple guys to try to clear. My guess, when the Russian army saw a little bit of that, they decided to stick with the AK-74. All right, now it's time to take you through the pre-production prototype of the AEK-971. Very unique gun. After getting a little bit of trigger time on it, it kind of piqued my interest in the gun because frankly, from a controllability point of view, especially in short bursts, it was a very, very impressive gun. Here's the concept behind it. The Russians looked at this with a fresh point of view and realized really the bolt carrier mass, like on say an AK, which is very heavy, it comes to the rear and comes to an abrupt halt at the rear of the receiver. That bolt carrier mass then transfers to the shoulder of the shooter, and that's what carries him off target. But one of the things they looked at is there a way to counter this? Or essentially have a recoiling mass going forward the same time there's a recoiling mass coming to the rear. And in theory, they're going to hit the fullest extent of their travel at the same time and more or less neutralize felt recoil. Now notice, as I extend this forward, this counterbalance or counterweight extends forward as the bolt carrier comes to the rear. Now, I got a fair amount of trigger time with the AEK-971, which is essentially this concept brought up to date and now in production version. I was very impressed with the gun. Shot several magazines through it, largely in 3-shot, full auto and 2-shot bursts by controlling my trigger control. Got very effective hits downrange. An impressive gun. Honestly, off the top of my head, it seemed to be more impressive to me on the range than the AN-94. Pretty cool gun.